Hey, welcome, guys. For those who don't know me, I am Brett Skinner. I am the head instructor at Warlord Combat Academy, a member of the Dallas Warlords, and I am this person right here on the screen. So, a wolf rib with a blue aventail. So, I've been wanting to put out more educational content for Boohurt for a while, so this is kind of me trying to dive into that project. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I wanted to do a review of a scrimmage we had earlier this year. This is a scrimmage between us, the Dallas Warlords, and the San Jacinto Knights, who fight out of the Houston Metroplex area. And there are also 3 members of Ordo Draconis that flew down and are marking for them. So San Jacinto Knights is a little bit of a newer team. They now at this point they've got a few fighters who are legit veterans, and they are a quickly growing team. I expect to see a lot of good stuff from these guys in the future. But though they have a few veterans, they're definitely still the majority of them are very new. And then of course the Order Draconis guys are very experienced and well-known fighters in the country. So anyway, that's a little bit of lead up. What I'm going to do going into this, my plan is to basically start by talking about some general strategy. So hopefully newer guys, newer teams can get a lot out of what we're really looking to do in a fight. After that, we'll just watch the fights. I'm going to try to narrate some of my thoughts, some of my actions, some of what makes me successful, so that hopefully some of y'all can copy that. And then I'm going to also talk about things that I see that we did wrong, things that I see that my teammates did right, things that I see that my opponents did wrong, things that I see that my opponents did right? And I'm just going to kind of point some stuff out, and hopefully I can do it in a way that by the end of the video, a majority of people will have learned some valuable info. So I think it's enough of an intro. Let's get into this. So for starters, this is cut, so it's just every fight back to back. Because of that, I'm probably going to have to pause multiple times and talk about some stuff. But, I'll try to not make it too long or too wordy. And I'll probably fail. So, first off, let's just talk about the general strategy you're going to see from us in this video. And you'll see it executed for better or for worse. We have a lot of newer guys too who aren't as used to trying to do these strategies, but we'll talk about kind of the basics. So we run a 2-1-2. It is probably the most common strategy run in 5v5s in the world right now, and I believe just about every top team in the world runs some form of the 2-1-2. So the way it works, there are basically 3 positions. These people get called all different things depending on what team runs it and how they do it. So I'm just going to number them from right now. So you got a 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. All right. So basically both 1s and both 2s are essentially the same position, just on opposite sides of the field. And then the 3 plays his own way. So the way a 2-1-2 normally plays out, your 1 position is going to move up and try to hold a spot on a rail. All right. It's very important that he is on the rail. He is not stepping away from the rail. The rail is an incredibly powerful tool, and being on the rail gives you a lot of strengths and advantages. And if you are not on the rail and your opponent is, it is very easy for them to take advantage of that and put you down. So our 1 is going to step up and hold a spot on the rail. We call this our initiator. This is often called a tank as well as some other stuff. So 1 steps up, point on the rail. All right. The 2 is just a little bit of a hybrid role, but his first job is going to be moving up here with the 1. He's normally going to advance slightly behind the 1 because he does not want to get initiated on. You want it so that any initiation your opponent chooses to take must be on your 1, because he is the person who is training to deal with that initiation. And generally, you're picking someone who's bigger and stronger for this position. So as a 2, I'm going to move up slightly behind him, and once we get there, I am going to determine how I feel that I can best lend aid to my 1, to my initiator, okay? That comes from generally three basic things that I can do. Either I'm going to strike often his opponent to see if I can cause his opponent to try to block something, to try to do something silly that lets my initiator get an advantage in the grapple and maybe take it down. I am going to, if I don't want to strike, I may choose to enter into a grapple. If I decide that I see an opportunity to get a quick takedown, then I might take it, and that means I go into a grapple and maybe I get a head peel or something and pull him down. Or number 3, I am going to try to defend him from the enemy striking at him. So because I run in sword and board, that means often were it to be if the enemy here was if this guy came up and stepped, boom, boom, and this guy comes up here and is using a poleaxe, often the most important thing I can do is make sure my shield stays between this guy and the poleaxe, right? So I just want to defend him, all right? Now, the last thing that a 2 can do is if he sees an opportunity, we try to empower our 2 position to take off and make a play, right? So if this guy decides to come up here and step up and try to start wrapping around on my center and these guys and isn't looking at me, then I'm going to take off and try to get a quick check and see if I can get us a numbers advantage. That's something that the 1 has to be aware of. And generally speaking, your 1 needs to have practice and be capable of handling a 2v1 for some amount of time so that your 2 is free to leave them. All right? Now, let's clear all these. The last one is your 3 position. Your 3 position is the one that generally is you give the most freedom to make a decision, right? So he's going to come up here. He may choose to shadow the other person, the 3 on the other side, and go wherever he goes. He may choose to push into the backfield, possibly force a one-on-one with their 3, or just shoot a gap so that their team has to deal with someone behind them and they can't push up like they would like to. Or he can choose to crash down on one side or the other and lend support. That's his initial decision, but really what you're looking for this guy most of the time is to just find a way to have an impact and then keep moving. So you want him to come over here, lay down a couple of strikes that makes a dude try to turn around and defend himself, and then he should be going to the other side to set up a check already. Like, he doesn't want to get stuck anywhere. So highly mobile and sort of the guy who makes things happen. All right. So let's clear this out. That is kind of our strategy, or the standard 2-1-2 strategy going in. So now let's watch it and see the scrimmage. All right, so the fight's called. You see both guys stepping up to take the edge. And Jacinto Knights rushes in and gets a good push. So I'm going to stop it right here and talk about what's happening, because this is a big mistake for us, all right? I think we end up getting out of this, but this is a problem and could have been a bigger problem. Jacinto Knights did really well right there. So when you're trying to hold this line, you really want to hold the line straight across. The reason for that is when you have 4 people or 5 people, let's see if I can just back this just a hair so it's better. Pause. All right. So when the line is straight across, right, imagine we've stepped up a little bit. It's very easy for me to step up and help Brennan or my 1 over here with everything that he wants to do. It's very easy for our center to stand in the middle and decide which way he wants to go, right? Same thing over here. It's very easy for our 2 to step up and help our 1 on this side. as it goes, once this gets wrapped instead, boom, right there. Now we have this sort of thing, and they're even starting to push behind us here. Now I am very uncomfortable because I have to know that as I'm engaging this person, that people are at my back, not to my side, but fully behind me. And it's the same thing with our 3 position here, can no longer step up like he would like to because he then has people behind him and it makes him uncomfortable. So it really forces all of our fighters to make a decision to either fall back or try to force something. So this was a really good push for them. It was a smart thing to do, and I think our side over here just honestly got caught off guard. So I said now we had to decide whether to fall back or make something happen. So I'm going to choose to try to make something happen. I look over there, I realize it's here, and so this is one of my favorite ways to add help to anyone grappling. I suggest all y'all do it if you have a shield. Go for a liver punch, right? It's floating rib, solar plex type area, and you're just trying to get a hard punch. It will almost never drop anyone, but it makes people very unhappy. And they will often try to push past their guy to you, or they end up bending over and losing the head control battle, and they can't get their structure back. So, went back a little too far. I wish this was on Facebook or YouTube so I could do everything. So the big punch there. Now, this is something that we're practicing right here. I promise I'm not going to pause this much all the time. But so Brennan here is going to try to pass his person back to me. This is something we've practiced a lot. And the key to this is at this moment right here, I need to get my hand on his head and I need to drag him and not let him get to this rail, right? If he can get back to this rail right here so that his side or back is on it, he becomes way more stable, all right? And it becomes very difficult to take him down, and we're already getting wrapped from the other side. So the goal here is get head control and start dragging him down before he can get to the rail. So, boom, you see the head control goes over, and we're able to pull him down. His buddy comes in, and I think he tripped over his own guy. He tripped over the foot of his own guy. A little bit of bad luck. Now let's talk about this one more thing. So, every time you put your guy down and you have a second now, like you need to find a new person, something that I want everyone to practice is make sure you take that moment and assess everyone on the field. All right. A bad habit pretty much everyone has at some point or another is they start tunneling on just who's the next person and they don't really look across the field. It'd be very easy for me to see the back of this guy right in front of me and think that this is the guy that I should be going to, right? The problem is he's in a grapple, he's close to the rail, and it looks like he's probably going to be rotating to this rail almost by the time I get to him, right? So this is a very hard, slow takedown that takes a lot of time, all right? Over here, currently, though, we've got our guy in a grapple with one of their guys and a halberdier now setting up to start striking him. A halberdier who is in open field striking is one of the easiest check targets you'll ever find, right? Because of how much of their back they're putting into that, it's very difficult for them to be stable side to side. So just make sure anytime you put your guy down, you immediately are scanning the field real quick and do a quick mental check of everyone who is still up on the other team. So you see, I see this guy and get an easy check. And at this point, it's 5v2, and it's pretty much clean up. The only thing that we want to do now is just make sure that we're not using too much energy putting these guys down. So all this striking is a little energetic, but here's a little trick to make people uncomfortable and want to go down. If you've got someone striking, rather than pull on their head or something and try to hold them, try to pull a guy down, if you have a teammate striking them, see if you can just make it so they can't defend themselves. See, all I'm doing is trying to keep him from being able to block with his shield, all right? And he decides to take a knee because he sees it's not going anywhere good. Another thing you can do, another one of those things is like kind of like a dirty little trick, but it definitely works, is cover their face with your shield. If for some reason you can't get to their shield to hold it off, or they're not using a shield but they're somehow defending themselves, just blind them with your shield, and it is a horrible feeling that immediately makes a person feel helpless. So that's a good next option. All right. Going into this next round, we now have 3 members of Ordo Draconis here. I do want to talk about anytime that you are fighting a team, it's good to recognize their high impact players. And now if you're fighting a team for the first time, you might not always know who that is. But definitely, if you've seen them fight before and you know, make sure that you are paying attention to it, right? So in this situation, this right here is Colin Martineau. He's a very fast, very mobile fighter who loves to make big crossing plays and make huge checks or huge strikes, right? He's the type of guy that if you don't pay attention to him, he can really hurt your team in a very short amount of time. But he's not, honestly, the best grappler. He's, once he's in that situation, he's still a solid fighter, but it's no longer kind of his forte. So when you have players like this, you need to recognize what it is, and you need to make sure everyone knows to have eyes on it. So going into this, my plan was to try to keep him from doing any big crossing play to my side, and if he showed me his back, to take him out, because I knew he liked big hits, and big hits are easy to counter with a check if you're on top of it. All right, so let's come into this. Cross is a big hit. I try to block it a little bit. It gets into Brennan a little bit, but he does a great job. He turns, and I immediately run and cross-check him. All right? Let's look at this next throw, because this is a lot more important. All right? So I talked about the rail several times already. Anytime you're fighting someone near the rail and not on it, well, even if you're on it, you always want to automatically have in your head that you need to take rail side. All right? So what you're about to see is one of Ordo's guys is going to kind of run and try to engage / check me here, all right? He's running kind of at an angle, but almost parallel to the rail, and I'm going to be near the rail as well. So 2 things. If your person is pushing into you, it is the perfect opportunity for a turning throw. The reason for that is, and I say a turning throw, like a hip throw, like think of a judo throw. And the reason for that is to execute a turning throw, you really are trying to get their weight forward and get them out over their feet. Well, because of the way that humans work, if someone is running, they're already leaning forward. And if they start pushing, they lean even farther forward. So if someone's pushing into you, turning throw is excellent. If you are lateral to the, if you're moving lateral to the rail, you always want to roll into the rail to do a turning throw, right? So when I say roll into the rail, if, we'll say if my shoulders are right here, if this is my right shoulder and this is my left shoulder, if he pushes in on me, I want to drop my left shoulder here and turn my right shoulder around so I'm turned this way, and I'm going to try to, let me put him in red, and I'm going to try to keep him specifically to the outside. So he's going to come in and hit, and I want to force him here. All right, so I'm from here to here, he's right here. This is one of the strongest ways that you can set up one of these throws. Anytime you have the rail, you are so much more stable, and it's very difficult for them. So you'll see, boom, the push, immediately turn to the rail, and you see my shoulder is leaning on this rail. That is so that I have support and can go completely for the throw. If I was standing up in the middle of the field and going for a throw like this, I would fall down, all right? Use the rail for these throws. And get a check for someone who's just not looking, which happens from time to time. And so right there, it is again 5v2, and it gets stopped. All right, moving into this next one. Our center goes down pretty early. Oh, we get a quick takedown. So let's talk about how things changed here. really, some of what I'm going to talk about is the exact same thing that I already talked about. But first, I want to say how much I love this play by Ordo, all right? They set up a play on me. Brennan does a great job of shielding me a little bit, which keeps me from probably going down to it. I don't know if this is something that they had pre-planned or if it's just something that they have been fighting as a team so long, it's just natural for them. But Colin's going to come over for a big hit, which has all of my focus on blocking him. The second the hit happens, Joel tries to push straight through and hit me with a check. Brennan is able to clip him just enough that he can't come through clean. But had that have worked, that would have probably been a beautiful setup to take me down. But as it didn't work, we're going to talk about protecting the rail again. Joel is pushing me back to this rail. The last thing I want him to do is to have me held and be on the rail. So I always want to make sure that he does not actually make it physically to the rail. Even if my back hits the rail, that's fine. That's just stability for me. Do not let him have the rail for free, all right? So Joel pushes back here, and I'm immediately turning and trying to get him off the rail. Another person pushes. Again, protect the rail. Stay to rail side. And he goes down. The halberdier here, just a little unlucky. He looked back and saw the body and decided to step over, but misjudged how close Brennan was. Brennan was able to give him a shove. All right, so this is a team of a lot of newer fighters. I think 3 of these fighters have been in for less than 6 months. So let's look at it and we'll see kind of our strategy breaks down a lot quicker here. But that's kind of to be expected with newer fighters, right? So we go up originally, see this breaks down really quick. So I want to talk about in a 2-1-2 what you would really like to do. Houston is doing a very good job. When I say Houston, the San Jacinto Knights, but Houston's doing a very good job of trying to make a play at the beginning of every round. All right, they're just finding some sort of cross, and generally they're pretty safe crosses that aren't going to get them knocked down. They're just looking for a possible opportunity to get something. All right, so you'll see right here, the Houston's railside guy rushes across and looks for a cross check, all right? Now, this happens, if this happens, in a 2-1-2, you would really like your 2 here or your 3 here to be the person who is shadowing him, right? You don't want to lose railside control here, especially against a good team, because a good team can easily start swinging around you, and you are in trouble, right? But this was a spur-of-the-moment thing. They make a good push, and our side guy ends up chasing. Now, what ends up happening after that is because his back is exposed to their 2 chases him, and because his back is exposed, basically everyone ends up crashing down over here, and it turns into a brawl, right? So he comes here, he's coming. You see everyone's kind of chasing everyone, and it turns into a big brawl. So we've got a 2-on-1 happening right here, and I'm going to freeze frame this right here. 2-on-1s are surprisingly difficult in this sport, and a lot of it is because people work against each other. The 2-man team works against each other, and this is classic how it looks, all right? You have one fighter who has his arms around this guy's chest, pulling him backwards. Our other fighter has his arms around the fighter's head, pulling him forwards. And what's happening is that both of their pulling power is essentially just canceling each other out. They're stabilizing them back and forth. So recognize this. Anytime you're doing a 2v1, ask where is your partner pulling and am I pulling against him? Because probably 2 out of 3 times that you ask it, the answer is yes. What I'd really like in this situation with 2 people with 2-handed weapons is one of these guys should be releasing and striking, and should be really trying to punish him to see if they can get the takedown. So we go on. They're still pulling against each other. That looks, David finds out, gets his weapon free. But Cyrus happens to let go at the same time and crosses, right? They had a chance there to get something done, but both players kind of made the wrong decision. And that's communication, right? If you communicate with your person saying, hey, we're pulling against each other, hey, I'm getting my weapon free, you hold them, I strike them, any of that would have worked real well. That's essentially the same thing as when there's a pop fly in baseball and two catchers or two guys are running to catch the ball and then both of them just stop because they think the other person's got it, right? One person needs to call it. I think we have a couple armor failures here, so I know it paused right here. We had 2 armor failures, so it is coming back at a 2v1. They have 2 fighters up, and we have 1. So you're going to see Charlie going to try to use that pile of bodies. He's fighting a guy who is huge, and he's real smart to use that pile of bodies, but their fighter sees what's happening and just follows it up. So again, I think this is Charlie, who is one of our more experienced fighters, and other than that, again, almost all these fighters have been in for 6 months or less. David over here has been in for a year, I think. So let's see how they hold like they're supposed to, or if it breaks down pretty quick again. It looks like they're coming out and holding pretty well. David taking that line. Oh, all right, so this is what we don't want to see out of a 1, all right? Let's start right here. So the reason I say we want to always take this side, we want to be on this rail, is to make sure this doesn't happen, all right? So you see he pushes straight through. Now, we actually get lucky, right? This guy's a newer guy. He pushes through, turns, and tries to go right back on the same guys. What many of the more experienced guys are going to do if you let them through like that is they're going to come here, they're going to find someone, and they're going to cross-check them from behind. They're going to eliminate a teammate right away. And if they don't eliminate them, if you do have eyes on him, the only thing that you can do is send someone back here to try to shadow him. And even then, it just becomes a 1-for-1, right? And he still might sneak by. He still might win the one-on-one. So this guy turns around and goes right back to the same fight. This was probably not the best call by him. But we have to recognize that regardless of win or loss, this was a big mistake that happened over here that could have cost us a round if we were fighting a more experienced team. Or if this was a more experienced player, right? So he goes back in, and everything kind of piles up. Let's see what we've got. David gets a real smart... We talk about... David was holding that line. This is the... And I talked last time about how you generally, if the outside person sprints across, you don't want to follow him. You want your inside guy to follow him. This is probably the exception to the rule, right? You're going to see that they kind of break into the only 2 people back here, right? So at this point, with it being only 2 people, no one is readily available to punish if we lose that rail. David makes the correct call and a smart call here to follow as this guy makes a crossing route. And because of it, is able to check this guy down, calling down before he can get a big play. Comes back over, takes another down, but goes down with him, unfortunately. Another small little mistake here that came from the correct decision. So let's talk about the decision and what happened. So this guy right here, the two-handed falchion user, gets free of this. Once he's free, he realizes he has a chance to reassess the field and find someone new to strike. So that's what he does. He comes right here. The problem is he sets up, he looks both ways to make a decision, but he never scans the whole field. You cannot do that, especially if you're striking in open field. This here is about the most dangerous position you can be on the field. You are nowhere near a rail to save you. You're nowhere near a teammate that you can try to hold on to when you get hit. You are just at the mercy of whoever else is on the field. So you must know no one's behind you if you are ever going to take up this position. All right. He misses the check all the way behind him to see that there's a person, and it's an easy takedown. All right. So at this point, I think we've got a 3-on-2. This is so one more thing. This is a much newer fighter that we have right here, and this is kind of a common mistake newer fighters make. But I would suggest everyone should look at this and know. So I want you to see the body on the ground directly behind him. Right? We got a body right here. This is an easy push takedown. You push him over this body, he's down. Right? But our fighter's newer, doesn't see it. He almost bumps into it, looks at it. What is it? Is standing right there, lays down, and he never really has the push, right? But the 2-on-1 wins on the other side. It's 3-on-1, and we get out of it. So here we go. Again, they try to make a big play right off, come with that check. Because I just talked about the two-handed Falcon Striker from last round, this is kind of the same situation, right? I just get checked into the rail, but my center follows, and they pull off back here, right? So now there's a group fighting here, there's a group fighting here, and there's a group fighting here, all right? I need to figure out what is the best location for me, because I don't think that I can have good impact from right here. So I need to decide where I need to go, right? So, here we go. So notice how I make sure I see where everyone is and then make my decision, all right? And then we go in here and we get in a little fight. Again, we're fighting. Always take rail side. Always take rail side. Next up, you're going to see us do this a lot. And this is, I was saying earlier, I talked earlier about a head peel. A lot of our team does this. This will not be the first time that you watch a member of our team do this. If you're not doing it, practice it. It's extremely powerful. You reach around to from behind to the front of someone's helmet, generally around their brow ridge. You are then going to pull it back and down to try to break their neck backwards. You're not trying to pull their body back. You want to bend their neck so that they're looking at the ceiling. And at that point, you're just going to drag down hard. So I get it down. He unfortunately is able to hold on to my fighter. He's able to hold on to Brennan and take him down with him. But it ends in a 3-on-1. I will say, because it ended in a 3-on-1, that was definitely the correct call. I am still torn on whether or not I feel like that would have been a good call, say, had we have been up 3-2, and I put that guy down and made it a 2-on-1. I'm not sure if it would have been a good call in that situation. Especially with Brennan being one of our stronger tanks. Having him up is a big boon. So I'm still torn on how I feel about that. You might want to be looking for a way to free your fighter first in those sort of situations. But since it was 4-on-2, the double meant we won, so it's an easy call. All right, some big hits. I'm sitting there trying to defend Brennan. Brennan's doing the same thing. See an opportunity for a cross. Nothing comes out of it. And here is a big mistake by me. And once again, I'm a little lucky that one of their members didn't realize it and take me out. So this is kind of this is exactly what I was talking about that you don't want to do. So I see an opportunity for a check, and I go for it and I miss it, and that's fine. But here's where it gets bad. I think that he and him and my 3 position, my center over here, are still tied up. I think that they're in a grapple, and I'm looking to go back and help my number 1, Brennan, right? Because he's now in a 2-on-1. However, my center, when I hit him, goes and moves on. He has my back, and I have no idea he's free. But lucky for me, he decides to follow my center rather than me. And I think that had this have been a more experienced fighter, he would have chosen me instead, and I would be face down on rubber in the next 4 seconds. So I see stuff like this and realize I really need to make sure I'm always paying attention to around me, because this very easily could have been a loss for us. Right. Instead, getting a fight, able to get an open field takedown. Decide to leave that over there. So I decide to leave Brennan and Joel, mainly just because both of them are very stable. Sorry. Brennan and Joel over here, they're both very stable. So a lot of times when you look at fights like that, realize that that might not be the best use of your time. Because chances are they're not going to go down very soon, right? Oh, and I forgot. I think boom. I think these two have a little tiff, and I don't feel like putting it on video. Expert editing skills. All right. So, realize when you've got two people who are in a good position, this would be different if Brennan had his head pulled down, or if he had Brennan's head pulled down, right? If he's got Brennan's head pulled down, then maybe I stay here and I try to get Brennan free. If Brennan's got the dominant position, then I see if I can help Brennan finish the takedown. But if you've got two big, strong guys who are on the rail and both in good positions, look somewhere else first, right? Maybe you don't find anything, but look somewhere else first, all right? So coming over here, this is the same thing I'm talking about. I love this. Y'all should try it. It's great. This liver, floating rib, solar plex punch kind of. I love this when helping one of my partners who is already in a grapple. And one of the biggest reasons you're going to see here is that when you land it hard, most guys fold over a little bit, even if they're just going to stand right back up, right? Because it's just kind of an automatic reaction. Like, I mean, it's similar to like when you get hit in the balls if you're a guy. You kind of have no choice but to kick your hips back a little bit and tuck down, even if it's not very hard, because it's like this natural reaction. So I love it, especially when my guy has his hands on their head, because it forces them to lose the structure of their spine momentarily. And if my guy already has head control, it's so hard to get back. So you'll see it kind of here. So boom, you see he folds a little bit, and then we're just not going to give it back to him, right? And he goes down. Unfortunately, my teammate loses his gauntlet here, but it happens. Now we're going to see, I think I'm trying to see what's over here happening. So now it's a 2-on-1. We talk about communication. Right now, all I'm doing is talking to my guy, letting them know it is a 2-on-1. And that he just needs to calm down, right? There's nothing he needs to do. Oh, that messed that one up. Anyway, so I'm letting him wear him out. Once again, you're going to see the same thing. Get his head down. How? Hard stomach. He tucks a little bit. Take head control and stay there. All right? And now you can't quite see it. I'm lifting my legs off the ground. I'm just making him hold my weight. And my partner is able to hook behind his leg and pull his leg out. Does a really good job. All right. Let's see who all we've got. All right. It looks like this round I am going to play the initiator. I think Brennan had to step out for an armor failure or something. So since this was a scrimmage, everyone else, we've been making sure to rotate them through different positions, and I hadn't rotated yet. So I'm going to play initiator over here. Cyrus will be my exploiter. All right, so I've got two people on me. This is fine. Make sure that if you are the exploiter, if you are a center, do not panic if two people are on your initiator. Panic if one of them has them bent over and another person comes up to strike. But if your initiator is in a good, stable position, this is their job, all right? And I say that because my exploiter has a two-handed axe. I'd really like him to sit there and strike, but I think he's going to make the decision that he needs to get in there and help me, and so he's going to move straight into a grapple, right? You're going to see it leading right here. He's got to gut up help, and he gets into this grapple. I would have really preferred him sit back and strike. So know that. Try not to get too worried. Just because your initiator has two people on them. It is their job. All right, let's take another quick look at what happened over here in this corner, because I missed it talking about the other stuff. All right. David's able to push in. All right, just gets a good push and a takedown, comes over here. So gets a great head peel here. I want to cover this just real quick. You're going to see this quite a few times. Well, first, really, I would have liked to see David strike right here. I think that's the most important thing. With the way he was pressed onto the rail and in a grapple with one of our opponent, or with one of our teammates, one of David's teammates, the best thing that he could have done here is come in with a heavy strike. That's first and foremost, but moving on to that, he didn't come in with the strike. That's okay, though, in that he still gets the takedown. What he's doing to get the takedown is what we just call a head peel. We practice it a lot. It's one of the most common techniques that we use as a team, and all you're looking to do is get some sort of grip. Often it is putting your weapon across, maybe your shield across, just a hand across the brow of your opponent, and then you're going to look to bend their head backwards so that they're kind of looking at the ceiling, and you're going to drag them, then press them and drag them down into the ground. So he gets a hook here, he gets the head back, and then is able to get the takedown. This is very nice. And as I say it, let's back up a second and a half. As I say it, I'm able to grab over here, and once again, this is that same head drag. Like I said, we put a lot of practice into it because it is so effective if you come up from behind someone. It's probably my number one go-to, assuming that I don't see some beautiful gap that I need to light up. So moving into this next round. We do make a little mistake here. I'll pause it real quick. So the guy right here, as you can probably tell, he is giant, right? He's 7 foot tall and I think 400 pounds in armor, maybe 450. I can't remember, something crazy. Huge guy. So the initiator on my side kind of thought about it and was like, he didn't want to get stuck on the rail in a grapple with him, so he wanted to see if he can kind of kite him out and just spend the round denying him an engagement, which was kind of, it sounded good in theory, but what realistically happened is we just kept backing up until we were almost to our own rail, had no more room, and then had to force an engagement. So I do think that we were trying something. I think it probably did not work like we wanted it to. So we end up pushing in, and our side kind of breaks down, and everything gets a little chaotic. Brennan gets a good takedown, but the guy goes down a little quicker than he expects, and he falls over. It trips over him. Interesting. If you look at this, I'm going to go back here. So you'll see David gets this cross check. The guy stays up, and he tries to go for this same head peel sort of thing that we're talking about. The guy slips out of it. David runs back over here, and the other person is going to head peel him directly back and get the takedown. It was a smart heads-up play by him. So now we got a 2-on-1 over here. Cyrus is holding it, and we've got a 2v2 over here. So big guy's trying to strike me. Our center's trying to get him off of me. So we get into this grapple, and I just try to sweep his leg a little bit to see if I can just break down the structure. For guys that size, a lot of times it's hard to recover. And then want you to look real quick. We were talking earlier about you get free, assess the situation. And I want you to watch this guy's eyes because I think he did a great job, right? Once it's done, you see him immediately look to the two of us. And before entering, he turns, looks to see if anyone's the other side, immediately sees there's a much better opportunity, and leaves. So look at this. You'll see when this happens, it goes down. His eyes go to us, and he immediately turns and then finds something better. Gets the nice flying knee and then pulls him down. So now it's a 2v1 over here and a 1v1 over here. And I think they're calling a hold right here because this guy's helmet came off. So this... So let's go. And so I think after this, they end up calling the round. There may have been another armor failure that they found after the hold. So that was the last of the 5v5s. After this, it is 3v3s, and this will go much quicker. The 5v5s, there's a lot more things happening, a lot more strategy, so the rest of the video breaks down pretty fast. Brennan just gets a nice rail throw. Probably hangs onto the rail a little too long. Kind of on the level, or kind of right on the edge, but does a good job. So I want to talk about this real quick. I know I've already said it once, at least in this video, but I love creating opportunities. Anytime you're trying to create opportunities, as long as they are low risk. Obviously, you don't want to create an opportunity by like running headlong into 3 people all by yourself, because the likelihood of you going down is very low. But Brennan deciding to run this crossing play just to see if anything would be available by the time he got here. And then once again, I'm going to cross just to see. In the end, nothing comes of it, right? But those are the sort of plays that I like to find opportunities to do because they often do have something. And then we talked about this. I said it. Our team loves this. He gets to the side. You see Brennan's Brennan's axe goes over his helmet here. He reaches and grabs, and he's going to start twisting the head and pulling him down. It's not directly from behind head drag, but the exact same principle, right? Twist that head so it's hard to resist, and then pull him down. All right, let's see what we got here. It's going to break into 3 1v1s. It's kind of common. Let's talk about this real quick. So these 2 fighters here, what William has here, the San Jacinto fighter, what he's got here is what I often call the suicide hug. This is really common for less experienced fighters, and even for some of the more experienced fighters, that they love this double grip, where they grip their weapon with both hands, pull the person in tight in this really strong bear hug, essentially. So the reason a lot of people like it is because it's a very strong grip, and it's very difficult for your opponent to make it out of it. The problem is because you have no control of their hands, no control of anything that they have, there's nothing stopping them from gripping you essentially the exact same way. So the grip greatly lends itself to suicides, basically. Like, it is very difficult to throw a person with that grip and not have the other person realize he's in a bad situation and just hug you, just like you're hugging them, and ensure that you both go down. So this sort of grip, I think it's good. I suggest it for people who are using a two-handed weapon and are losing the grapple. But I really try to get people to go away from this as a go-to for trying to win a grapple, right? Because if you're winning a grapple with this grip, there's a real good chance that when you get the takedown, you're going down 2 and you essentially lost. So you're really just counting on your opponent being so dedicated to staying up that they don't realize that they should go ahead and hold on to you and you should both go down, right? So you're hoping your opponent wants to be a better fighter than you, and in doing it makes a mistake, and you're able to get a single. So you're going to see here the double hug. Both fall for sure. These guys get into a slugging match. It looks like his mace broke, and his visor pops open as well. Looks like the visor strap got cut. Now we got a 2-on-1. So I was talking about earlier about making sure you calm down in situations like this. This first little burst from everyone is kind of what you want to get away from, right? Y'all have the advantage, especially if y'all are smart and move to the rail and make sure that you're stable. 2 people hanging on one guy is pretty exhausting for the one guy if you just take your time, right? Eventually that guy has to start trying to make moves and will give you opportunities for the takedown. All of those punching and kneeing and kicking are unlikely going to do any sort of damage and are probably just going to wear you out. So remember that. Armor is really good. So they get into this hug. I think I'm going to go over and start talking to them in a second over here. The big thing here is that Joel has Juan hugged tight and Charlie has Joel hugged tight. What that means is that essentially the only person who isn't being hugged is Charlie right now, which means the only person who can leave this engagement and do something else is Charlie. So, right there, Charlie realizes it. He starts getting free. Boom, pushes, and that was the smart thing. And then Joel chooses to essentially take a suicide. He hooks Juan's outside foot. I think he was pretty tired and just wanted to make sure he took down Juan with him. All right, let's see how it is. A nice little crossing play. I love those little switch-ups. Once again, it's just a little opportunity, especially in 3v3s. 5v5s, it can cause a little bit more of breakdowns in your lines, and I don't like them quite as much, but in 3v3s, it's great little crossing plays. Oh. Looks like the big guy drops his weapon, chooses to stay down, and I think, again, you're going to see this head drag. We practice this a lot. And it's a 3v1, fight stops. This is a strategy I like to talk to my guys about from time to time. And it's really just psychologically realizing when some people are very tired, right? I'm lining up against the big guy this time. Since I know this team pretty well, I know that he is still very new. I think he's been in the game less than 6 months. I could be wrong, but he's still very new. This is the second time we fought him in armor, that we have fought him in armor. And this is really late in the day. And so I know that at this point, he is pretty exhausted. I know that if I choose to grapple him on the rail, he can probably grab a hold of me, sit on the rail, and exhaust me, right? At that point, it's going to be very, very difficult for me to get anywhere. So going into this, I even told my center, my plan was just going to be, I was going to try to throw a hard punch to the gut to get him to bend over a little bit, and then I was going to try to pull his head down or kind of shove him and see if I could just get him off balance enough that he would fall down, right? You can kind of see how it plays out. It doesn't quite play out that way, but it's similar. And once again, this is just a guy who is exhausted and recognizing it. And we'll talk about this takedown as well, because I think this is an important kind of talking point. So let's talk about why this takedown was so easy. So when you're learning foot sweeps, right, one of the most common ways you're going to do a foot sweep is trying to catch a foot that is off the ground, but that you are about to put down and put your weight on, right? If you're stepping forward and you are about to step straight down onto your foot, and right before it hits the ground, someone moves it out of the way, you immediately fall straight over, right? To do that, though, your opponent either has to be extremely skilled at making you step in a way, or you need to be stepping in a very clear, obvious pattern, right? So the easiest way to sweep someone's feet is to catch them in a pattern, right? Then it makes the foot sweep very easy. So you're going to see when we get in this grapple, he wants down the rail, but the way he does it is very clearly patterned. So this is why this foot sweep was easy. It's why it worked. And it's something to think about on the field, especially if you're fighting someone who likes to use foot sweeps, is, are you patterning your steps? So you'll see step, 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 right? Every single time, that same little shuffle, same little shuffle. So be careful of that. All right. Get some crossing strikes. That's pretty good. Come in with a fun little flying knee. Doesn't do much. There we go. All right, another 3v1. There's not a lot to say about that. I'm just able to catch him with an outside foot sweep. Brendan able to get a headlock, get the guy's head down, and drag him around until he goes down. So they do a hard push in. A little brawly. I do love this. All right. Got a couple things here. All right. So, one, Cyrus is pulling when this guy's got this same suicide hook around Charlie's head. He's going to really struggle to take this guy down. But what I love is that he realizes it while in this grapple, turns and looks and realizes his buddy's getting 2-on-1 and struck, and he's going to make the decision to leave and go help his friend. I love it, right? This is really good heads-up play and really good teammate play, which is really good. Now let's talk about where he made a mistake. So he just pushed the guy, rolled to the rail, and they are now both falling this way as he rolls side to side to the rail, right? So this should be an automatic turning throw, all right? So I'm going to put these lines. These lines are essentially the line of our guy's shoulders, of both fighters' shoulders, all right? So again, he's just pushed here. They roll, and he just has hit the edge with his left, but because he came from this side, all momentum is now going this way, right? Momentum's heading that way. All right? So, because of how tight they are, this is a very easy throw for either one of them. It's just dependent on who's on top of it, all right? If our opponent, the Jacinto Knight guy, can control his body and make sure his back stays facing that way, he can step through and sweep, or trip one, like he can step around and sweep, or he can trip one of the near feet and sweep. Because of how easy, it's an easy thing because my fighter is leaned backwards and momentum is going that way. It makes the attack very easy. However, if my fighter could continue this roll, remember his front just hit, then he slid off, left shoulder hit here. If his right shoulder then immediately rolled along this rail to right here, so that his left shoulder then rolled to right here, and now he's looking the other way, and he can push his opponent, when he does it, he takes this hook he's got on the left side and pulls his opponent kind of out and around him. So his opponent is right here. Easy throw. The rail is his, and he wins, right? Instead, he tries to stay straight and regain his posture and balance. And because of that, the other person is able to step straight through for a nice sweep and takedown. Now, luckily, he held on tight enough. He was able to pull him down at the same time. But that was a great sweep by the other guy that could have been avoided if he had have continued to roll along that line. So we got 2 one-on-ones here. William again has that suicide grip. It's very unlikely. Even though he's got a good grip on Charlie, it's very unlikely he could have taken him down without going down himself. And kind of a photo finish. Let's talk about what went wrong here real quick for any of y'all so you don't make the same mistake. So it's kind of a shame because what William does here is actually really smart. It's the good play, I think. I think where he is right now, like I said, there's no way he gets that takedown without falling with him. So he either needs to let go of this and find a different way of engaging Charlie, or he needs to look for the cross check. And with Charlie's teammate not looking at him at all, this is an easy chance for a cross check. Problem is he doesn't cross check. He slows down and he looks to jump over our teammate's head and pull him down. It's a very low percentage play in open field. There is no higher percentage play than the cross check in open field. And now his partner is going to swing in his way a little bit, but I feel confident that had he have been pushing for the cross check from the beginning and not slowed down, he probably could have gotten it. Right? Boom. Unfortunately, because he doesn't, Juan is able to turn and dump him over some bodies, and Charlie is now free, and Charlie does choose to cross-check, right? Charlie definitely cross-checks and gets the easy takedown. So, smart play by William, just the wrong choice of technique when he got where he was going. All right, I think we've got 2 fights left. We're almost done with this. Right, Cyrus running another crossing play. They're trying that a lot. And then Adam trying to counter cross, trips over his own feet. Rough. It happens sometimes. So this moves into a 3v1. You got a 2v1 with some big hits coming in on Cyrus. And Cyrus finally goes down. The one thing that I'd like to see Cyrus change here, when we talk about this from a coaching standpoint, I strongly believe that anyone can go down to strikes if they feel that they need to do it for safety reasons, right? I definitely, I want my teammates to be able to take strikes indefinitely. I want you to take 17 halberd strikes and pretend you've never noticed it, but that can be unrealistic, right? And no one knows how you're feeling inside your armor but you. So I don't tell people not to go down to strikes. I tell them that their safety is their own, and they can make their decision. What I do say that I want to see is I want to see an attempt to defend yourself before going down. So you see Cyrus here has his weapon around this guy's helmet. He's grabbing it with his shield, and he's going to choose to just take these strikes, which is fine, right? He takes 2 or 3, then one finally gets through that hurts. At that moment, I'd really like to see you switch to try to defend yourself from those strikes, because often the striker can't strike that many times before he starts moving into a grapple because he's tiring himself out. But Cyrus tries to dedicate entirely to this head grab until he gets struck to the point where he has to go down. So, all in all, he took a good amount of strikes. He stayed up. He's a tough fighter. I would just love to see an attempt at defense before going down. And they take it 3v1. 3-on-1. I think this is the last round, and it's probably one of the best, so I'm excited about it. This guy, Adam, who is our fitness instructor, really makes up for falling on his face last round. So let's watch this real quick. This is a real good for any smaller guys or centers. This is a great example of how you can really use movement in the open field to deal with larger fighters. Joel is significantly heavier and stronger than Adam. If he can hold him on this rail, if he can get to any of the rails and hold on to him, Adam's going to have a bad day. It's a losing battle, and he's going to be lucky to get out of it, right? Adam knows that, so he's going to try to keep kiting. The big thing to realize is that once you get a big guy moving, you can use that movement to your advantage, right? You might not be strong enough to move someone yourself, but if they move for you, you can always take advantage of that. So you're going to see, one, he knows he does not want to get grabbed, so he's going to try to keep moving until Joel decides to leave. At that point, he moves back in with a big cross check, grabs, and throws with that same movement. Just a beautiful takedown. Let's watch it one more time so you can see this. Once again, he acts like he's not going to do it and moves right back in, makes sure our opponent's okay, or his teammate's okay, gets a big throw. Then Colin comes in with a big shot, and let's pause it right here. All right. In fact, I'm gonna back it up just a hair. Just a hair. There. All right. I'm loving this. So, we've talked about it 2 times already on this video, but let's hit it one more time. Colin pushing forward into Adam parallel to the rail. All right? And it doesn't matter. It can be at a slight angle. It's not perpendicular, but for this one, it's pretty much straight parallel, right? So you'll see the reason pushing so important. You see his feet, boom, are back here. Head right here. His head is, oh, I'm going to draw. If only I could draw. All right, let's try this again. This is it's pretty bad. Here we go. His head is, boom, significantly in front of his feet, right? So, what did I say? Head in front of the feet, turning throw is almost always your best throw, right? Like, that is what I want a fighter to do if I want to do a turning throw. So, turning throw is what we're looking for. He's pushing me down the rail. What do we want to do, right? So I always want to be rail side. I want to take the rail. So I want to let my left shoulder drop back. Boom. And I want my right shoulder to come basically around. And boom. So now that's my shoulder line. And I'm facing that way instead of this way, right? Whatever. Now, what I want to do with Colin in a perfect world, the idea is that as he pushes forward, my left shoulder falls back, so he pushes into me slightly. That right shoulder comes around, which bumps him out away from the rail and gets him out here. Now he's out here, pushing forward, head over his feet, head past his feet, becomes such an easy takedown with that turning throw. All right, so that would be the picture perfect technique. Now let's see what happens. Watch this one more time all the way through, because this is legitimately perfect, right? Perfect. So, and that is the last fight. I think it's a great way to end it, because I think that's just, I mean, it's one of the probably the most beautiful takedown of the day. So yeah. Anyway, that's my review. Let me know what you guys think of it. Give me any advice, critique, feedback, anything that you want me to change. I know this was kind of long-winded. I know that I talked a lot. If y'all want me to get them more focused in the future, well, I'll be putting out more focused things, but I'll definitely be doing more Scrimmage VoD reviews as well. So let me know. Well, let me know any videos that you want to see, but definitely when I do Scrimmage VoD reviews, let me know if you want anything changed. If you want me to focus anywhere different, you can definitely leave messages in the comments. I'd love that. If you have me on Facebook, you can send me a message there. I'd be happy to hear whatever, because I'm gonna be trying to put out more content. So, thank y'all very much for watching.